So you made it through the accident.
I didn't even get to see it. They diverted us off 202 at Henniker.
Oh,
Wow.
It's a good thing I know where I'm going.
okay.
Seriously.
The lady in front of me had no idea.
Ugh.
So you made it through the accident.
I didn't even get to see it. They diverted us off 202 at. Hello? I got an echo.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Our live YouTube is delayed, so I did not realize the speaker
funny.
was on.
So was it a serious accident or?
I don't know. The Hopkinton cops were there. The Hillsborough cops were in Hillsborough and Deering was going.
But it occurred in Hopkinton.
Nope, it occurred in Hillsborough or
Oh.
Henniker, somewhere in there, because they diverted us at Henniker.
And so they didn't let you on at 114. You had to go all the way.
Yeah.
The old way.
Oh yeah, like through Emerald Lake and yeah.
The scenic way.
Yeah.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Anna.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sorry to be late.
Well, I think Steven's probably joining us. Neil, are we good to start?
We are good to start.
All right, I'll start with my spiel. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
All right, I'm going to read the right to know law meeting checklist, our favorite thing. As chair of the Hopkinton Select Board due to COVID-19/coronavirus and in accordance with Governor News Emergency Order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are doing the following. A, providing public access to the meeting by phone with additional access by video or other electronic means. We're using Zoom tonight. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting through Zoom, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting. You can dial 646-558-8656, and the meeting ID is 340-316-049, or you can click a zoom.us website address we have provided. Providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided on the Town of Hopkinton's website at hopkinton-newhampshire.gov and on the Town of Hopkinton's Facebook page. Providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems. If anyone has a problem, please call 603-746-8242, or you can email townadmin@hopkinton-newhampshire.gov. D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn and have it rescheduled. A few things to note about Zoom. The meeting's being recorded. It will be available to watch at a later time. The link will be on the town website. The board is unmuted. Everyone else is muted. If you have a question, you can use the raise your hand feature to let us know. And during public forum, we will unmute folks, let them speak. And all votes will be taken via roll call in accordance with the law. So we will start by taking roll call attendance. So please state where you are and if there's anyone in the room with you. This is Sabrina Dunlap. I'm alone in my office. Ken.
Ken Traum, and I am similarly alone in what I guess is my office.
Jeff.
Jeff Donahoe, and I'm alone.
Anna.
Anna Wells, I'm alone.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody.
And here comes Stephen.
Okay. Hi, Stephen. will you just tell us if there's anyone in the room with you?
No, there's not. Just me.
Okay. All right. We'll start with points of pride. Neil, do you have?
Sure, I have two. The first is just everybody involved with the election last week. Considering how many people, I won't even try to name them all. The work in preparation, the work that day, all the volunteers who were there, the setup, the takedown, the counting of the ballots, the doing all the paperwork after. It was just a huge amount of work, and it seems like it really went basically flawlessly. So, and I think that's a tribute to all the volunteers and all the people involved and staff that made sure that it all went really well. And the other thing I wanted to note is just a thanks to Weaver Brothers Construction. They did the Kearsarge Culvert as well as the Briar Hill, and they've been. It seems like they've really done good work. They've kept the roads closed for the least amount of time they possibly could. And they were really flexible. If you remember, Briar Hill was to be done last year, and that culvert was put in Stickney. They switched to that and switched back. So, and we weren't sure what we would have for funding until July 25th. So they were able to jump in. So that we're appreciative of that.
Great, thank you. I would echo what you said about the election, but I would just call out Neil, Sarah Pacino, and Carol Harless. Sarah Pacino, especially our town moderator, just a massive undertaking to make everything go pretty smoothly. And thank you to everyone here and all the many volunteers who helped make the day go really well. So yeah, it was a good pandemic election, I'd say.
And Jean Lightfoot worked with the three of us too on set.
Yes, and Jean, yes, definitely. Tons of prep went into that, and even more will go into November. Anyone else have any points of pride?
I'll just echo what you all said about the election and all the multiple people that helped, and the people who came to vote or voted absentee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, and one other thing about today, it was the first day of school for a lot of people, both remote and in person. So just thanks to the administrators and the teachers and the school board that have worked really hard to get the school year going this year. All right. Anything else?
Nothing to add, just to echo both of those. Kudos and thanks to everyone involved in the election and in getting kids back to school today.
All right, moving on to administrative. First, we have approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda of September 14th, 2020.
And someone to sign it, Ken?
Oh, and I, unless you want, Jeff, I will volunteer to sign it.
I'm happy to do it. It's not a problem for me. It doesn't bother me at all to go.
Okay, and nominate Jeff to sign.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff.
I'll second that.
Second.
All right, do a roll call vote. Sabrina's yes. Ken?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Thank you. And now approval of the public meeting minutes of August 31st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Sabrina's a yes. Ken?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Thank you. And approval of the non-public meeting minutes of August 31st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Sabrina's a yes. Ken?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
All right. And approval of the public meeting minutes of September 3rd, 2020. I could not make that meeting, but thank you all who could. So is there
I'll
a motion to approve?
I'll move we approve the public meeting minutes of September 3rd, 2020.
Second,
As a clarification, do we abstain if we weren't there? Does it matter?
I would say yes.
All right, so Sabrina's abstaining. Ken,
Yes,
Jeff,
yes,
Anna,
Abstain.
Stephen.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we have our first appointment is Alyssa McCann slash Ruth Chevion regarding the Bates Building.
And I think Alyssa's name is correct.
Yes, I think so.
It is correct. Thank
Oh,
you.
good.
I appreciate that. Neil, because of our exchange, I went on this wild ride and I figured out there's something called Share ID on your cell phone where you can change your name, and that was incorrect. So thank you for letting me know that it was showing when I called you on Verizon. Much appreciated. Thank you all for making space for Ruth and I tonight. I'm sorry that I'm not on video. I'm literally feeding my son dinner, but we are just about done. And essentially, I know that Ruth and I keep popping up in front of you once or twice a month. So my hope in being here tonight was to share with you both where our organization is, but also to seek to understand more about what your process is going to be for determining the use of the Bates Building. Neil, I had sent you something earlier today that was a one-pager. Is there any chance we can share that with the board?
Sure, I'm trying to call that up right now. Sorry for the delay.
So while Neil's pulling that up, I'll read to you oh, thank you, Neil. So essentially, this is why we're here tonight. I figured I'd put it in writing, make it easy, but it's to understand your approach and timeline to determine the use of the Bates Building. Ruth and I are representing an engaged, an excited, and a motivated artist community. Y'all, I just moved here 2 years ago, but I have just been astounded by the depth of young, emerging, and professional artists who reside in this town and who have an energy to show and be a part of this community. We've made a lot of progress since we first came to you. We have a show opening tomorrow that features parent and children artists. I highly recommend checking it out, regardless of your feeling on our long-term stay there. The show is beautiful. We're in planning for a 2021 season that you can read all about on our website. And we're taking the steps necessary to register as a nonprofit corporation here in New Hampshire while seeking fiscal sponsorship as a stepping stone towards getting our 501 official label. And so we want to be your partner in caring for the Bates Building. We care deeply about the building, its history, and the way it's served the community over the last 70 years. And our hope is that our organization can help it continue to serve the community, particularly around the arts. At the bottom of this, and it is only one page, it's a PDF. I do hope Neil can share it with you later, but includes information about Two Villages Art Society, which is what the House of Art is going to become as we register for a nonprofit. I won't read you all that. It's there. It's also on the website at www.twovillagesart.org. We're keeping it up to date. But yeah, I'm here to ask, what is your process and how can Ruth and I be a partner in that process? Because we care deeply about the building. We want to make it work for the town and for the community.
So great questions. I'm just trying to pull up my notes from our meeting a couple weeks ago and where we landed on this. Right, town meeting for approval, okay. So, I mean, I'm not sure I have, and others please speak up. I don't know that I have much more to share than we had 2 weeks ago. Because I think we landed in a place where we are gonna stick with, oh, hi, Ruth. Didn't see you. Stick with sort of the status quo through the end of the year. And then I believe we landed in the place of potentially taking this to town meeting to be able to enter into longer term leases. So I don't think we got into sort of like the meat of the issue at the last meeting about how we're going to approach the process. So I don't know if others have thoughts on this. I know that, you know, in my initial conversation with the DOJ Charitable Trust Division, they felt that doing something with an arts group is probably more in line with sort of the intent of the gift of the building to the town versus like, you know, renting it to a business or an accountant or a lawyer or something like that. So I don't know. Others, do you have thoughts on, I mean, we will have to discuss this at some point. I'm just not sure that this is the time where we're going to be able to land on exactly what the plan will be for town meeting. And then if we get approval at town meeting to enter into longer term agreements, where exactly we'll go from there. I mean, it is quite a ways away.
I just want to clarify, my notes indicate you said you would extend the current lease through March.
Okay, I forgot that.
But I think once you decided to go to town meeting, you decided it made sense.
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah. Thank you for correcting me on that. So, I mean, I guess where I land is it seems like we've extended that through town meeting. I would be inclined to say that I think it makes sense to continue to use the building for arts purposes. And if it's Two Villages or whatever the name is, I mean, I think that would be great, but I'm not entirely sure what our process needs to be, you know, post-town meeting.
Brittany, can I ask a question of Alyssa or Ruth? And what kind of feedback, other than what you've heard, are you looking for from us?
It's a great question, Stephen. Essentially, what we're looking to understand is what will be the process going into town meeting and then coming out of it. I don't necessarily understand if you guys will work out what we're even voting on here in these open forums, or if you work it out somewhere else, because you could be putting out to vote that we're going to enter into multi-year leases, but you could also putting out to vote that we're entering into multi-year leases with this organization. And that changes a lot for us in terms of how we're advocating for the vote, what we're doing in our planning for fundraising and grant writing. One of the major reasons that we want to get our fiscal sponsorship as soon as possible is that we know that capital improvements are needed sooner than later down the line for that building. And we want to be applying for grants that help us with capital improvements and capacity building. But we don't want to do that if we're not in partnership on the future use of that building, because it's a lot of work. And we could focus instead on seeking a new home or looking at other capacity building grants, hoping that the Bates building would be our home after March, but laying down additional other plans. And so I guess what I want to do is figure out where best to put our energy. And that's not on you guys. I'm not asking you to say, Alyssa, you should go do this. But more, I'm looking to understand what will be your process so that Ruth and I can best spend our time behind the scenes doing what's going to be best for the community.
Thank you. I guess I'll speak for
I think
me.
Ken was speaking, but
guess.
he's muted.
Yeah, Ken was muted, but
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Ken, do you want to say something?
No, go ahead, Steve, and then I'll jump in.
All right. I mean, I guess for me, and I haven't given this a whole lot of thought, so this is kind of an off the cuff response, but you know, I envision us putting some sort of article on the warrant authorizing us to enter into long-term leases I think my preference would be to give us some latitude to consider other organizations, which doesn't mean that I think that, you know, we don't want to enter it in with you guys. I just want to keep the town's options open. And obviously we have the probate court decision that's also kind of putting some guardrails on what we can do. I mean, I think I said in one of the prior meetings that I like the idea of you guys continuing to stay in that building beyond March with a long-term lease in place. You know, I think this board has talked about, you know, changing the rate structure that we would charge for a long-term lease like that. And that's still, I think, where I'm hopeful that we'll end up. But I guess in terms of a warrant article, I want to leave the town's options open just to ensure that if we do retain ownership of the building and the property and we don't try to sell it, that we are trying to recoup our expenses to the extent that we can and charging a little closer to a market rent. I don't know what that number is, but a little bit closer to what the market would bear. And like I said, I hope that ends up being Two Villages Art Society or whatever you guys become, because I think there's a lot of good that can come from that. But I guess that's as well thought out as I can articulate right now, kind of what the process forward looks like. And I hope I answered your questions a little bit, at least for one board member.
And I basically agree with Stephen. And if we did go the route of a warrant article, I think we'd be looking for your art association to do a lot of selling in town. I mean, we've twice gone for authority to do something else with the base building and we've lost. So if we do it a third time, I think, you know, we're going to need that much more help.
Ken, I hear you. And I think, Stephen, yes, you did answer my question. Thank you. And Ken, I'm with you. And Ruth and I have talked about that. We are under no misconception that folks voted no to selling the building because the majority of the town had a driving desire for an arts association. Many probably don't even know about us. And I think my concern with our energy and time would be that we would campaign hard. We'd put the time into that and the care that we'd put into a show or anything else that we're doing. And we'd turn around and having gotten this through and would find that the market rate is something we couldn't even conceive of as a young nonprofit, or that you're actually interested in a different organization, even though we did all this legwork to do this. And so it's not that I'm looking for a promise, but I am looking for a level of fairness in negotiating afterwards.
That's eminently fair. When I said that, you know, we didn't succeed in our vote to sell, you know, the Arts Association was one of the reasons, but there was another block of voters that wants the clerk's office moved back there. And that's the group that I'm wondering about, you know, we have to explain and sell this approach to.
Absolutely. And excuse me, if you see some movement behind me, Owen is learning how to walk. And can't be stopped. He goes where he wants. So what I'm taking away right now is that everyone is committed to putting a warrant in the upcoming town election about multi-year lease. There is more to be discussed about how you would evaluate what that lease would look like and how you would enter into that agreement. Because I imagine there may be some folks who haven't spoken tonight who don't necessarily, because I don't want to assume I know what everyone's thinking here, but that there's more process that y'all have to discuss about, well, what does it look like to pick who's going in there and what is that process? And I think it would be helpful to know that going into the election, that coming out of it, you have a way to turn around and determine, okay, if we get the yes, what's the next step? What happens next? So that from anyone's perspective who is interested in renting the building, we're not caught saying, okay, wow, we cleared that hurdle. Now, how do we determine who's actually going to stay here? Just so that we can move quickly, whether it's us or another organization. Obviously, I hope it's us, like, don't get me wrong, but I'm being open here.
Yeah, and I'm sorry we can't give you anything more definitive. I'm just thinking, like, I've never gone through this on the board, this process of trying to get approval to do a long-term lease. And so I've never actually been through the process of how, like, when we chose to do month to month with Ruth, it was mostly because we it was a lovely arrangement, and it has been, but it was also in part because we weren't expecting the vote in I guess that was 19, whenever it was, to go went, and we sort of felt like it was better to do that than to do nothing with the building. And so we didn't really come up with a process then. We just kind of went with Ruth and
I think you made a great choice. Don't get me
we
wrong.
did. I think it's been a lovely arrangement, but I'm not even sure. I think I need to look into / do a little more thinking about what the process should look like when we're in this situation with town buildings.
Yeah.
Jeff, you just went off.
Well, I
mute.
recognize that we are a standalone nonprofit. I hope that the service we provide to the community will end up being on par with the library or the senior center or other places where folks can gather and communicate and share, because I can promise you, from having just put on this show with Ruth, we're not in this to make money. There is no money to be made in this endeavor. But we are in this because we really believe in the talent of the students in the Hopkinton School District, of the students who have graduated. I mean, some of the art that's come in for the show right now who are from Hopkinton students who are now graduating college. And we also believe in the professional community here and creating a space for all of our residents to enjoy that art, to experience that together. And there's something about that gives me tingles as I think about how long it's been in this pandemic since we've all been together, and how amazing the first art opening that we could have when we get on the other side of this will be. And that even now, people have been trickling into the Bates building as we were loading in the current show, just thirsty to see the art, just excited to talk to someone for a moment. Yes, 6 feet apart, yes, with the mask on, but with the subject being, look at this amazing thing. Can you believe this person made this? So all that to say, I hope that through this process, we can show you that we look to be a community service just as much as some of our other pillars of the community are.
I just want to
appreciate
add.
that.
Sorry, Brittany, go ahead.
No, also just Jeff, you were off mute. Was that because you had something to say?
I was just going to ask Neil if we had any other inquiries on the building. I thought I heard somebody at voting actually ask.
Just the ones that I've passed on to you. There was one professional office that had asked before.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Stephen.
I was just going to add that I think you asked about process and whether it's going to take place on a Zoom meeting like this or someplace else. And I just wanted to respond to that it'll be at a Zoom meeting like this. So if there's some kind of internal process for us as a board to figure out what we do, you and the rest of the public should be able to kind of watch that unfold before you. So that you won't, in other words, you won't get a meeting where we all show up and say, we've already made these decisions and here you go, public. So, yeah.
I appreciate that. And so here's what Ruth and I are going to do. We're going to stop bugging Neil every other week to get onto your agenda. We're going to assume that there is a vote moving forward in March about entering into a long-term lease unless we hear otherwise. We'll keep our eyes on the agenda when it's published so that when you do schedule this again to discuss what the process will be, it won't because Ruth and I have been requesting every other week to come back and be like, where are you guys at? What are you doing? But we will, clear our calendars and make sure that we're here to listen, engage, and answer any questions that we can answer, recognizing that at that point, the process isn't about us. We're recipients of the process, but that we have a vested interest in how it's going to play out.
Well, great. Well, thank you both for coming in, and definitely more to talk on this, but we appreciate all of your thought and attention that you're putting into this. So
thank you for letting us steal 30 minutes of your time. And thank you to everyone who's watching at home for listening to us talk about the Bates building again. Please do come check out the show. It is amazing and it's open till October 9th. So thank you all.
Awesome. Anna, Anna, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I do. I just wanted, before you go, I wanted to ask Neil or others about other town property that's being leased to commercial for-profit other parties and what the process has been for determining those.
The only other place we have leased is the former Horseshoe Tavern to the real estate office. And they rented that, probably 8 or so years ago. And the process was, it was advertised for a very long time and nobody was interested. So the board negotiated based on that. So,
Okay, so a very different scenario.
and they do not have a long-term lease, but the board did receive authority from town meeting to enter into a long-term lease. So,
Okay. Okay, that's helpful in that it's not helpful, I guess. But I did also just want to say that I really recognize the importance of the gathering space that this House of Art, as it's now called, is. And I recognize the role that arts can play in bringing people together. And I love the possibility that this holds. And I know that we can't, I think at this point, because of a lot of the points that have been made, make like real promises that we can lease it to you in the long term after March. But I do think that we can promise you a very fair process with open minds and open hearts too, because that's, I mean, there's a lot of heart involved in what you're doing. And I think, you know, we're residents of this community and we're people too, and we've got kids and we're artists, and you know, we love what you're doing. Well, I won't speak for everybody, but I love what you're doing. And I wish that it were simpler, you know, but it's a complicated situation with the building, the clerk's office, you know, the supervisors of the checklist being there already. So there's just a lot involved. Not to mention the issues with probate and the you know, the community use of the bill. So there's a lot involved, but I do hope that you can take our promise for a fair process at face value.
Deeply appreciate that. And just recognizing that there are the people who live in the building, and we hope they continue to live in the building. It brings so much character and I think continued service to the community. And then the last thing, which is back to a very earlier point, and then I swear I will let you guys go, which is that because we care about the building and we recognize that it will be a resource drain on the community long-term because of its upcoming maintenance, we would be committing to working with the select board in the town and fundraising to take care of the building and looking for grants related to arts facilities and all those types of things to help with that care of it. And so just naming that, I can't promise you any monetary amount, but what I can promise you is a partnership in the care of the building and in rallying the community around the care of that building.
Great.
Thank you all so
All
much.
right, well,
Good luck with the rest of your
thank you.
meeting.
Thanks, Ruth. Thanks, Alyssa.
Nice to see you both.
All right, we have our 6 o'clock appointment with Lynn Clark.
here comes Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi,
Hi, Lynn.
Thanks for joining us.
sure. Thanks for having me. So, what the cemetery trustees were asking for is some kind of a resolution that would allow one of us or our cemetery sexton, Joe Tristano, to issue a right to bury form if it's needed in between select board meetings. So right now he gives a temporary when he sells a plot, but then we have to wait until there's a select board meeting for you guys to approve the final right to bury. No one's really sure why it has to go through the select board. But we're wondering if in those cases where somebody has died and is needing to be buried and it's in between a select board meeting, if we just have the authorization to go ahead and issue the right to bury form.
Okay, thank you. So Neil or anyone, do you know exactly, like I am not super familiar with this realm, so I don't know what the reason would have been for us to need to approve a right to bury, except just that's the process. But Neil, do you know?
Right, and because it's town property being sold, I believe.
Mm,
So it's right. So we were
Well,
wondering if
it's-
it was a holdover from the days when you actually got a deed to the
oh,
property from the town. And so now you don't own the property. The town still owns the property. You just have a right to bury somebody there. I don't know if that makes any difference.
Has anyone looked into like if there's an RSA dealing with,
yeah, that's what I was
and
wondering.
if we're at the mercy of this RSA?
Right.
I don't know, but I wonder if this is a good municipal association question
Yeah.
to get some feedback on.
Yeah, because I don't have an issue with the concept.
Neither do I at all.
I just
but-
wonder if it came from, it could be that it's about the deed issue and that it used to be that you were actually selling a piece of land. But I don't know if there's an RSA on this.
Lynn, can you, so what happens now? So you guys get a temporary authorization pending
Right,
an actual receipt from the select board?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And Robin prints out the actual right to bury after you guys have approved it.
And does waiting on the select board, I mean, are people not able to bury their loved ones until they get that from the select board?
I'm not sure if they're buried anyway, pending, and the paperwork comes afterwards.
Yeah.
Lynn, do you know about in other towns you're familiar with what the process is?
I don't actually. This is not. We didn't call other towns on this issue. We've called other towns for other issues, but I didn't call around for this one. This came
Yeah,
about because we were updating our forms generally so that everything was, met the RSAs as far as we knew, and were clean and and reflected what we were actually doing.
I wonder if it would be worth doing some research, talking to NHMA, pulling the statutes and seeing if it is a old holdover or what process is followed in other
yeah.
too.
I just Googled and it's like beyond what I can do on the fly right now. So I think we are going to have to do a little bit more research to make sure that we're not running afoul of any statutes. So, I mean, unless I can't imagine anyone agrees or has a problem with this in concept, but maybe I should not assume that. But if everyone's okay with the concept, we could just research this and see where we land.
I'm certainly in support of the concept. I'm wondering if we could approve it contingent upon that the municipal association doesn't put up any roadblocks.
I think it might be worth reviewing the statutes and talking to the municipal association and then writing the resolution to match whatever they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we're only talking 2 weeks, I don't think, I think there's not a pending issue. It's just looking for a long-term solution. Is that correct, Lynn?
Correct. And in this year, there's everything's happening more slowly. I mean, Joe's anticipating there's going to be a lot of burials in the fall, but that's just because everybody's been putting it off for so long. So I don't think it's right an issue at the moment that somebody needs to be buried like immediately, just because everybody's waiting so long
Mm.
because of COVID.
I know he had 4 burials on Saturday, so for example.
Well, so understanding there's some urgency, but if we could wait till the next meeting so we could do a little bit of research on this, then I think that would be best.
I will report. We have a meeting on Friday, so I'll report back to them on Friday.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Okay.
All right. We are on to old business. First up is election follow-up.
I just put that on there if there were any issues. We've sort of touched on that already, that it seemed like it went well, but we are meeting, the 4 of us who had been meeting next Tuesday to begin the review and then the planning for the next one in November, which will be twice as big.
Yeah, it seemed like the biggest logistical issue was just the absentee ballots and how to deal with them. So I don't know what Sarah's plan is with that. A few people mentioned they thought that a bill had passed that addressed the counting issue, but then others I spoke to said that it was actually vetoed. The bill that would have been super helpful was vetoed, and that we were left with something that actually was not all that helpful in terms of starting the counting of the absentee ballots. But that I think was the biggest thing I heard about in terms of challenges.
That was the most time consuming, for sure.
Mhm.
And I know that there are several states who are hoping to be able to start counting their absentee ballots before November 3rd. I don't know what the status is of New Hampshire right now.
I think there are several options that have been discussed and probably will be discussed next week. It really becomes, I think under the statute, it really is the moderator's call on a lot of that. Not processing earlier, that's by statute, but how they're done on that day.
Okay.
So theoretically, we could have more people delegated to doing that throughout the day. That might alleviate some of the backlog.
And that's been done here before.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that I'd raise is if there could be more signage when the people are coming to vote, indicating this is where you go drop off an absentee ballot. This is where you go to vote if you don't want to wear a mask or if you don't want to go inside. Because there were a number of people that seemed to be confused when they got up to the back door, which way to go.
I noticed that too, although I think November will bring its own, I think it'll be in a different, potentially in a different space because of weather and other, but yes, I noticed that too, Ken. People, it would have been helpful to have a more visible sign directing.
I will pass that on. And that was something we had discussed in advance, and I will review it again. That
Yeah, I don't think we decided, right, the signs can get tricky, but I think something just more clearly showing that unless there is a reason for people to not wear a mask, that they should go right into the high school. Anyone else on election?
I was just gonna say, I think the big issue with the absentee ballots was actually checking them off. The processing of the ballots themselves was not a hassle. It was Sarah and Tom having to go, Sarah and Tom and Carol having to go and check in those ballots. And every time someone showed up, they had to go back and get out of the way. And that was the biggest time issue for them. I felt bad for them that that there wasn't a second book. I'm sure that's not legal, but a second book would be much easier to check those ballots in.
And that will be a bigger problem in November when
Right.
it's assuming twice as many ballots and twice as many people coming through. So
And we really didn't have lines all day until about 5 o'clock. There was, onesie, twosie, but of course they had to get out of the way every time those people showed up. And I see a bigger potential for lines, which means none of those ballots are going to get processed during the day. It's going to have to be after the polls close unless we can do it before.
Yeah.
And I see Jean's on. Maybe she has a comment. I don't know.
Do
Her
every
hands up.
does every town use a paper checklist, or is there a digital checklist that's somehow like so that it's not multiple lists, but if you check it off in one location, it's checked off everywhere?
they've talked about going to that, but I think they were piloting it in a couple towns from the secretary. And Jean is unmuted, so she should be.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hey, Jean.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they had that in Bedford. At least they'd been doing the, they call it the electronic poll book. I guess that's what they call it, polling book. And it's basically like an iPad, and each ballot clerk has it, and it's connected right to ElectionNet. And when they check off someone as having voted, it goes right to ElectionNet. So that's something that they've been working with. You might, if you know anyone in Bedford, you could check with them and see how they like it. I think it would move it a lot faster, but as far as two paper checklists, no way, never. I mean, it sounds good on the surface, but then when you think about what if someone's already voted and they get checked off in one, but not the other, and it becomes difficult. But Anna and I had spent some time talking. I've talked to Neil. I was talking with Sarah some. And I think, the four of us will come up with something, I think. And Tim's going to be included in that too, I think, Neil, on a week from Tuesday. So, we're well aware of the issue, and hopefully it'll be like the first drive-through. We learned something from that. Did better the next time.
The electronic is interesting because you could have a dedicated spot doing absentees because it's automatic. You
Right.
also don't necessarily have to have people come in by alphabet that way. I think the places that use that don't necessarily do that. So you could have quicker check-in.
Yeah, it's real time. It's done in real time, and it's fabulous. I mean, the idea to me is fabulous. It would save so much time for all of us, I think, and be much more efficient for the voters. How do the ballot clerks feel about it? Well, they'd get used to it. They'd learn how to do it. So
With
Go ahead.
the absentee ballot drop off, the biggest time consumer from my perspective was people that were dropping off a ballot for somebody else. They were the designee. And that whole process, and having to get one of the ballot clerks to come outside to deliver a ballot and to take care of that.
yeah, I mean, I think there is a reason for that process, and it has to do with ballot harvesting.
Oh, I don't
Okay.
question it.
No,
Is
it's just time consuming.
exactly.
Right.
Do we feel like migrating to that digital system is something that is worth pursuing and trying to accomplish in the next? It's weeks,
7
matter of
weeks.
Yeah,
7 weeks, I
not
think.
months, but weeks.
Yeah.
And what the costs associated with that are, and if it's worth it. Sounds like it may. I mean, going long term, it sounds like it may be.
I think it would be difficult to do it in the amount of time because you'd have to get the system, you'd have to get the Secretary of State to agree, because the towns that are doing it are on a trial basis. So
Okay.
you really, once you involve the Secretary of State, you're looking at years,
Sure.
potentially years. I'm sorry. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's something I think we should have it on our radar. I definitely think we should have it on our radar and think about, maybe being another trial town.
And maybe the Secretary of State's office will implement it statewide if the trials are working well, and that would be good.
That would be great.
Well, thanks, Jean. And
Okay, thank you, guys.
just, yeah, if there's anything we can help with process wise, let us know. That seems like the real, that's the tough one right there. I just don't know how we fix that process when you only have one list.
I think the other option is we are able to count the ballots prior to election day. That would be
Right.
the best
Yeah.
solution under our current system, but that would eliminate the possibility for anyone to, if they've voted absentee, to then come and vote in person, which is how we did allow it this last week. So
Yeah, from what I understand, I don't know if you've seen the letter that is going around, that a number of towns and town officials have signed it, and I know Sarah's going to sign it. It's asking the governor to clarify, because apparently it was the Secretary of State that said, the governor said the list could be marked on his executive order. And then the Secretary of State said that meant that you could highlight them, that you could not mark them off. And I've been saying it, to me, what they've created is they've created early voting. They don't want to call it that, but that's what they've done. And yet they're still allowing people to vote. They're not counting they're not putting the early votes in before election day. And that's a huge problem. If we could check them off the checklist over the weekend, that would be fabulous. And you wouldn't have to open in their envelopes, but you could check off the name. And then they can't, once you vote in any early voting state, at least the one I used to live in Nevada, that was an early voting state. If you decided you wanted to vote early, and you changed your mind, too bad. So if you think you might change your mind, you wait and vote later. But to guess, what we had on Tuesday was a situation where we basically had a hybrid that created a nightmare for many of us.
Right.
Yeah.
If those could be opened and checked off, and kept safe,
Mhm.
like all the ballots, and then put through the machine even on election day, that's not the issue. It's the
Right.
checklist checking off.
Exactly. So hopefully, maybe the governor will do something that will make it easier, at least more efficient, because as far as I know, we only had one person come in to vote between that 7 and 8 a.m. who had cast an absentee ballot. So that person could make up their mind one way or another beforehand. So, anyway, that's my opinion. And I think, we'll see how this letter works with the governor.
All right. Well, thanks, Jean. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you for all your help. You guys, well, Stephen, you were off doing something else, but the rest of you, the rest of you were there. You stepped up. So thanks a lot.
Election day is my favorite. It's being able to talk to people. All right. Anything else? Neil, you'll just keep us posted.
Yes. Yeah. And if there's anything you think of, let any of the four of us know.
All right. Thank you. So next under old business is mask resolution. So Neil, I don't know if you can bring up the word.
I can.
Okay. So I took a crack at this. I looked at New London because they recently passed a resolution, and I was struggling with language because they, you can see my comment here. New London used language like shall and must, and basically said that masks are required. But I found that to be interesting because a resolution doesn't really have teeth behind it. And so I like the idea of definitive, clear language, but I also am not sure that it makes sense to say something's required if we can't, in fact, enforce it. So Lyme was another example, and I believe they said something like had it pulled up. They said something like, we strongly request that everyone wears masks. So just pointing that out up front, that was something I was sort of, I was going back and forth on. But anyway, the idea behind this is just to, like we discussed at our last meeting, make it clear that we think everyone should be wearing masks in town, but not going so far as to work on an ordinance at this point. I think mostly because enforcement is a concern and a challenge. So I don't know if others have had a chance, if you want to like walk through this live, if others have had a chance to look at this, or if Anna, if you have thoughts since you were helping draft too.
Neil, can you scroll down just so we can see the,
Sure.
if there's any other, okay. I agree with what you just said, Brini, and also the conversation that it looks like you and Anna had in Redline here via Word. I think that because it's just a resolution and it doesn't have the teeth of an ordinance, that we should soften the language to saying, you know, we recommend or strongly urge or, you know, encourage those sorts of things, and save the mandatory language for, you know, the ordinance.
Yeah. I'm just going to try to pull up
I
Lime.
mean, that seems to be the point here, you know, is to
Right.
start with, you know, this is a recommendation, please do this. Given the circumstances, we think this is the right thing to do and a good idea. And then, you know, if we have to get to the point of, you know, if we hit our, whatever our threshold benchmark that we come up with, if we think we hit that, then we get to the point of requiring. But again, in strong partnership with all of our enforcement, the enforcement arm.
So Lime says the select board formally requests that its residents and visitors wear masks or facial coverings when in a situation where physical distancing is not able to be maintained until further notice. So formally request is sample language.
I agree with certainly the concept of formally request or recommend. But my question is more basic. Would this apply to companies like McLean or HMC for their employees?
Townwide, it would.
Yeah, so I think, I can't remember if I put it in or not. I think it was New London that said, if you're in a building and you're interacting with customers, you need to put one on. And then if you can't maintain 6 feet of distance between yourself and another employee, then a mask should be worn. So, I mean, since it is a resolution, obviously we would like people to be doing this, but in my mind, I would hope it would encourage any restaurants or stores that don't currently have signs up, or currently if there are any places that aren't requiring staff that are interacting with customers to wear masks, that this would sort of encourage them to do that. So, I mean, obviously we're not going into like places like McLean to check on what they're doing. I would hope that they have it all figured out by now, what works for them. But I think especially in retail establishments or restaurants where people are going in and out, that it's really important that when there's interaction, people wear masks.
I totally agree with any retail establishments or food places. It's and maybe it was when I tried to get a handle on the Concord ordinance, it seemed to leave it open whether or not offices or places that aren't really open to the public are recommended or required to follow the same rules. But, at this point where it's a resolution that's, it's premature to worry about that.
Hey, Jackson.
Hey, Jackson.
Any other initial thoughts on this?
I agree with the concern about wording it in a way that it makes it seem like it would apply to a place like McLean that doesn't have the retail traffic that comes in there. And I don't know if you were talking, I don't know what you were referring to, Brini or Anna, when you said that there's some sample you looked at and it talked about, if the size of the building and if you can maintain 6 feet of separation from your coworker, that, the resolution doesn't apply.
Well, I am just noticing it does say which are open to the public, which to me implies that it wouldn't cover places like McLean, like anywhere where you wouldn't normally just like walk in, that this wouldn't necessarily apply. That it would really be.
Well, except the sentence after that was all employees of all businesses in Hopkinton must wear a face mask when
When-
interacting with the public and when within 6 feet of a coworker. So that's,
Well, I think that would actually, I think you could, if you're McLean, say, we have limited personnel that interact with the public, and for those that don't, they're more than 6 feet apart from each other. So, we read that sentence as not requiring us to have face masks unless we want to as an employer.
mhm. Well, and I mean, I don't think we can have the word must in there anyway. I think it has to be are encouraged to. And if it's that, then I think we should leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we can change all these musts and the requirement to softer language.
Recommendation and encourage and
Formally, what is like formally
request.
Formally request. I like that.
Yeah.
So I realize everyone might not have had a chance to read this carefully. Obviously, we need to make some edits. So process-wise, do people want to send comments and edits to Neil, and then hopefully we could adopt this at the next meeting? Or I realize that puts us out another 2 weeks. I don't know if we want to make some edits on the fly right now, since it is just a resolution. It seems to me that it would be nice to get it out tonight, but
I think it's far too specific for a resolution.
okay.
If you look at, I forget which one I just had up, Lime.
Yeah, Limes is shorter. I
We
like
recommend face coverings. We encourage face coverings.
Yeah,
Not calling out specific businesses. Just we recommend that your business use face coverings.
Yeah, it did seem like the New London one, maybe they wanted to go for an ordinance and then just turned their ordinance into a resolution at the last minute, because it did read more like a mandate.
Yeah.
There was Lime, and there was wasn't there one more? New London, and then I'm not remembering what the other, I think there was one other resolution.
Was it Portsmouth or was that an ordinance? I can't remember.
I think Portsmouth is an ordinance as well, but let me see.
Well, We could just shorten this quite a bit,
Mhm.
some of the specifics. If I had started with Lyme as an example, this would be shorter. I started with London, which definitely reads more like an ordinance. It's true. Does everyone what do others think about the level of specificity and making it more broad?
I think that would be simpler.
Yeah.
I think Jeff makes a good point. And I just pulled up Limes, and
Yeah, it's much shorter.
yeah, I think if what we want to do is encourage people and kind of bring this to their attention, that simpler may be better for now.
So what if we just keep, I keep trying to scroll, but I can't. What if the bullets that are just basically facts about COVID, which is sort of similar to what Lyme does, and then take everything out until I can't see it. But I think the last paragraph maybe is the one that we want, that just says, we formally request that everyone wears a mask.
Sorry about
I
that.
think you need, I think going back up, I think you need right after under the bullets, I think you need something that's therefore,
Right.
Hopkinton
Yeah.
Select Board on behalf of the town of Hopkinton hereby formally requests the use of face masks, etc. But then I mean, I don't know about leaving in the mask can be homemade or store-bought. I don't think that matters that much.
No, I think we can delete that.
But then I'm like, it's so small on my screen. I leaned way in.
The next paragraph that's about the, age 2 and the medical
Health exemption.
exception, I would think that paragraph should stay.
Yeah.
Well,
And just read this request.
That gets to the point of like, if we have these conversations now about some of these, about like adding a little more detail, that it might position us a bit better if and when we do have to do or move towards an ordinance.
Mhm.
But
I don't understand the desire to keep that paragraph in, Ken. We
Just-
recommend people wear masks. They're not required. What's the difference?
I think it helps give a little guidance. I think it helps folks, if they're wondering, does, am I walking around, I don't know, flouting this resolution. But if you're under 2 or medically compromised that you can't wear a mask, then you're okay. I mean.
Okay, but me walking down the street seeing you without a mask, I'm going to think he just doesn't give a damn. Whether you have a medical issue or not, doesn't matter. You're still not going to wear the mask. If you don't want to wear the mask, you're not going to wear the mask.
True. But what's the harm in putting it in?
Well, it's making the resolution overly complex. All these points after the bullet should be gone. The town of Hopkinton, through the Board of Selectmen, strongly encourages wearing masks to protect public health and safety. That should be the whole thing.
I think I agree with Jeff that after the bullets, we have the therefore paragraph, and then that one on the other page, and the ones in between can come out. And I think this conversation kind of illustrates the difficulty of drafting an actual ordinance. And so if we want to have something in the
Right.
book, then we need to go simple and get it out. Because
Right.
we're basically right now, like having a discussion about what we want the ordinance to look like, which is not what we're doing right now.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, I agree. And in the interest of getting this done, I would be in favor of deleting, we can delete the mask can be homemade or store-bought starting right there, and just delete everything until the last, I can't see, but up until,
This
This
resolution.
resolution will remain in effect. Or,
right.
or no, what about this resolution as an effort to encourage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah.
Sort of like the point. And hereby formally
Formally requests.
Just requests.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that's a lot easier.
Yeah.
They want to be formal.
I guess it seems redundant.
Strongly encourages.
What do people like, request or encourage? I guess request feels a little odd.
I prefer encourages.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, we're encouraging, so I think we should say
Maybe we can just combine these. So it's therefore the Hopkinton Select Board on behalf of the town hereby encourages the use of face masks that cover the nose and mouth. And then when they are inside a building or when they cannot maintain 6 feet of distance outside. So we can just combine, you know what I'm saying, Neil?
We need a subject for that sentence though. Like, so you need encourages residents and visitors to use face masks that cover the nose
Right.
and mouth when they are inside a building or when they cannot maintain 6 feet of distance outside.
Mhm. Hereby encourages,
And
that doesn't quite make sense.
and then
You'll get it.
and then delete.
Don't delete mouth. You need to put mouth back in there.
Cover their nose and yeah.
So it should be, it doesn't quite make sense.
The word "the" needs to be
yeah.
2,
Right.
the one that's highlighted right now. No, nope, sorry.
Oops. Oh, got it.
The one that's highlighted blue, yeah. And then take out the word "of"
Right.
on the other side of use. It's fine.
So the title we can change to a resolution encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
is it true that there are new cases in Merrimack County daily, or is it the state of New Hampshire daily?
Definitely state of New Hampshire daily, and there have only been over, I mean, I've been tracking it now for about 3 to 4 weeks, and there have been like 2 days when there have been 0. I mean, I don't know how precise you want to get. I don't want to be called a liar, but there, I mean,
I'm just,
Wanna
I
go
don't
with
disagree.
three?
again.
Pre-symptomatic in the last bullet, please, Neil.
Oh, is that?
Can you hyphenate pre-symptomatic?
you don't like that red squiggly underline there, Jeff?
Not.
Got it.
In the beginning, italic portion, town should be capitalized. It's like the second paragraph that's italicized.
Oh, the town of Hopkinton.
Town of Hopkinton.
Yep.
And then I wonder, I see your point, Anna, but I wonder if we should just take out daily in that second bullet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with it, but I just worry that we're going to be accused of misrepresenting.
That's fine.
what's going
And
on.
it'll change.
Right.
Can we add something about it's tricky, but the recommendations from the state of New Hampshire?
So
Um,
Lyme says the state recommends strict adherence to CDC guidelines, which isn't necessarily helpful. But I was actually thinking, do we want to mention the executive orders that exist, like the ones that require masks? I don't know. Maybe that's getting into
I
the
don't,
issue.
I don't, I guess I don't think we need to do that if we're not making it binding. You know, if it's
Yeah.
something binding like an ordinance, you want to like establish your authority. But we
Right.
don't, I don't think we need to have that.
Yeah. Anna, were you thinking, was there something specific? I know Lyme just says the state of New Hampshire recommends adherence to the CDC guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, I know, New Hampshire doesn't have a mask requirement, obviously. That's why we're talking about it here. But what you're saying, there are emergency orders relative to masks. And I, off the top of my head, don't know what the details of them are right now. Maybe it doesn't
I'd have
matter.
to,
A lot of the reopening information, depending on the individual segment, includes mask recommendations. So,
Yeah.
But I think I'm not sure you could list them here because they're numerous and in lots of different documents. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, the other one that I was thinking that we could add is that the Hopkinton School District is requiring masks.
Right. Lyme does mention that too. That their school was considering it.
I mean, it feels like it's worth, this is a statement of, we recognize that the Hopkinton School District requires masks be worn by all students and employees. On school property or something.
Again, I think we've made the case in the first 5 or whatever it is, 5 bullets. I don't know why we want to keep piling on just to make it longer.
Well, my only other, yeah, I know, I don't want to, I guess it's simpler to not be tied to anyone else. I suppose it's in the realm of possibility they change their policy. I doubt it, but you never know. So I'm fine with where we are now.
Okay. Let's do it.
I like where this is at as well.
Okay.
I'm also fine with it. I just note in the last line, it's in town ordinance, should town be capitalized there?
Probably.
or should ordinance be
Lowercase.
not capitalized?
Whichever.
Either one.
Yeah, I think I would not capital. Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Now,
I'm kind of with you.
Okay, I think I would not capitalize town ordinance.
yeah. Now we can say issued this 14th day of September. Is it the
Yeah.
14th? It is, right? Yeah.
Yes, it's still the 14th. It's a long day.
And should we say issued and adopted? What's normal for a resolution? Does it matter?
I'd say just issued.
Okay. Now, since I've never been through a resolution process, is it correct that we would just vote on this, Neil and others? Yeah.
Yeah, I think a resolution is just a statement, so I'm not sure there's any specific.
And didn't we do this on the racism thing earlier this year?
Did
Yeah.
we vote?
Yeah, we did.
Adopt a statement?
I wonder if you should take out or until the resolution is replaced by a town ordinance, because the resolution remains
Hmm.
even if
Interesting.
town, those are two separate items, and I don't think you would, having an ordinance doesn't negate the resolution.
So we can just delete that part and just say it will remain in effect until it's deemed. Well, is there a better way to say that? Until further notice by the select board?
I think it's fine the way it is.
It's just clunky.
Split the infinitive there, though.
What if we say this resolution? Bunch of grammar nerds here. I love it. If we
Until it is deemed
resolution will remain
be
in effect until further
Until it is-
notice by. Until, sorry, Anna, you go.
until it is deemed to be no longer necessary would be proper. Sorry. You're laughing at me, Robin.
Yes, ma'am.
You're lucky I don't read the minutes like with a fine tooth comb.
Oh, no, Deb does that to me.
Oh, good, good.
Well, what if we can we just say until further notice? There's something about us deeming it not necessary that feels weird to me.
Mm.
Can we just say it remains in effect until further notice by the select board?
Until rescinded by the select board.
That works for me.
Okay. Are we going with rescind or further notice?
Do we rescind
Rescind.
the resolution? Is that what we do? How do we unresolve a resolution? Dissolve? I don't know.
That's why I like until further notice.
I don't think that the verbiage there really.
Probably
happens.
not.
Okay, this resolution will remain in effect until rescinded by the select board.
Many
Perfect.
fewer words. Good.
Or you could delete the whole paragraph.
That's true.
Never goes away.
Yeah, okay. We probably could. Thank you, Neil. I know editing on the fly is not fun when everyone's watching you. Okay. So should we move to adopt? Or is this just existing without a motion?
I think you need a motion.
I move to adopt this resolution as we've amended it.
Second.
I'll-
Sorry.
All right, thank you all for your editing efforts and thoughts. So Sabrina's a yes, Stephen,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everybody. So Neil, can we do like a link on the town website?
Sure. Put it up.
Okay, thank you. All right, that takes care of old business, which brings us into new business, starting with year-to-date financials.
They were sent out. Probably the biggest thing in the financials is there's not a lot to report. I'll note in revenue, we are, St. Methodius is behind in their payment in lieu of taxes, which is why that's low. Motor vehicle permits are good. Other from the state, I just want to note, we've received 52,640. That is actually largely the COVID first responder stipend, and we are still expecting to receive the $49,000 from the state that was part of last year's budget. So that should be way over. And that is part of the offset that you see in the COVID expense line. A sewer fund is largely timing. Bills have come out, those are coming in, that should catch up. That's everything I had on the expense, on the income side. On the expense side, just to note, personnel always is timing because of health insurance payments. Cemeteries always balance out in the end with what comes from trust funds. You'll notice recreation is high, but the Kimball Pond is now closed. So that's all been paid out. Other than that, we look in pretty good shape. I would note that the COVID grant information invoices are due in tomorrow. They were all submitted today. We have been allocated $132,227 through that. This is the Gopher amount. We have expended in extra things about 21,309. And then when you add, which you can do, police and fire, the total amount we have expenses for is $637,451. So I would anticipate we'll receive the 134,000, but not more. But that has all been submitted, and the grant is. The paperwork is amazingly thick. There's a lot of invoices and all the payroll stuff that went in. So
Thanks for doing that, Neil, and others who helped.
if anyone has questions, Ken?
Neil, it looks like the revenues are way behind. We're 2/3 of the way through the year and we've only got 51% of the revenues. What's your current estimate for where we're going to come in? I mean, it looks to me like we're going to be $500,000 or $600,000 short.
Yeah, a lot of that is timing. If you look where that is, for example, flood control from the state, 237,500 comes in hopefully in October or November. The room and meals at 288,500 comes in the last week in December, usually from the state. So
But that's likely to be really low, isn't it?
No, because it's based on prior to this. So that has already been committed. So we have been told we're getting those real amounts. So I anticipate we will meet our revenue. And probably what I should do, I'll run a report for the next time with a comparison year to year, which I think is helpful to show like those lines that this time last year,
Right.
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I had a budget committee meeting last week, so I've gone over all of this information with Neil. And, you know, Jeff, I would certainly agree with Neil that the state generally pays us at the end of the year for a lot of big ticket items. And, you know, so the timing is what's throwing things off. But I think that revenue wise, we're certainly, it looks like we'll be coming in with a little more revenues than we had budgeted for because of motor vehicle. I guess the question, Neil, I think you basically answered it, is when we had last talked, you were waiting to get information from the municipal association about if first responders' salaries could be included in the COVID grant. And I think from what you said, the answer is now yes.
Yes, it is. They have to be substantially dedicated, and if they are available to respond and they deal with the public, we anticipate that is okay. So we've done that, included the letter that the municipal association didn't give legal advice or say that it was valid, but did give recommendations on how to justify that and submit it. So we have done that.
So that potentially will provide a nice boost to the year-end fund balance.
It potentially could, depending on what our expenses are.
Mhm. Well, I'm just saying that by itself, because it's allowed, it would help.
It certainly helps, yes.
And I'll just mention now that for the budget committee, for our next meeting, I'll be going over the CIP spreadsheet just to remind them of, what we're looking at for things happening down the road for purchases or projects or whatever. And they're looking for the same kind of information from the school district so they get a better handle on what's coming. I'm done.
Thank you. Anything else on financials? Or should we talk about the budget schedule? It's gonna be so much fun.
But largely it's relatively the same schedule we've used in recent years. I might be able to share it. There it is. With budgets due by October 16th. And it's hard. We're a little behind because normally we've started a little more on it, but it was hard to start the week after town meeting. And this anticipates, which it hasn't really been set, following the same schedule as last year, with town meeting on March 20th and the school meeting on, I guess it's not on this, but that would make it the 13th. So, and I haven't had any conversations with the school yet, but we will do that, I'm sure, when they're a little less busy.
Okay. Thanks, Neil. All right. Next is the rate update.
Yeah, this was not good news.
Hmm.
This is
Mhm.
it's easier to look at. These are the it's great to have 3 screens sometimes. Sometimes it is. So these are the increases, which seems to have been cut off on this copy. So the increases are these amounts. So employees are everyone but police and fire, and they're going up 2.89%. So it would be 14%. Sorry, those were cut off.
They're on the third page, Neil. They got the second page is blank and then the third page picks them up, or fourth
Oh,
page.
something.
There they are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so for a little spreadsheet, this is, so from 11.17% to 14.6% for employees. Police are going up to 3.88%. So this is of their salaries, and fire to 32.99%. Each 2 years, effective July 1, the rates change. They're set by New Hampshire Retirement to try to make up for the funds that are not in the system. So when we budget for next year, we'll budget the first 6 months with the old rate and the last 6 months with the new rate. But it's really not exciting to see such huge increases. These are kind of the biggest increases I think I've seen, especially employees really haven't gone up over the years. So.
And Neil, do you have a ballpark figure on what the amount of the increase for next budget year will be because of this?
No, I haven't run that yet.
Okay. So nothing we can do about that one. Thanks, Neil.
Sure.
I lost my agenda. I think it's your updates, maybe?
Sure, and I'm going to start with, we did receive an email from Tammy at New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank, and this was kind of some good news. She had their financial analyzer do an analysis on refinancing the fire station and the road bond as of today, which was last Friday. The fire station bond is producing almost $80,000 in savings, and the road bond around $23,000 in savings. That's spread over 10 years for the fire station and 5 years for the road bond. But at least it was with New Hampshire retirement also coming on Friday. At least it was some good news to offset that a little. Just to note, we talked about the treasurer's term. The treasurer's term is until the end of Kevin's term, so that is 2023. The statute was a little unclear, and I checked with the Municipal Association just to be sure, and they confirmed that. I think we already noted the culvert work that's been going on, and paving, I think now is pretty complete, the work that's getting done this year. You approved last time St. Andrews using Kimball Cabins. They decided not to do that. They are not going to be meeting in person. And I think that's it that we haven't already covered.
With the bond bank, Neil, if they gave you estimated savings, what are they using for interest rates?
They did not tell us what they used, but it went out last time at 0.47%. So they're not anticipating a huge increase in that. So
0.7 sounds terrific.
So, but 1% is not unlikely. So good.
Thanks, Neil. Does anyone have anything for other? Because if not, we could do public forum, although we only have 2 people, and then our non-public, and then Thorn.
I do have 2 questions. Is anything happening with Snow Pond Road?
With what?
We had a meeting about
Sugar Hill Road.
thank you.
Oh,
Sugar Hill.
Yes.
The
word starts with S.
Nothing has really happened yet, but it will hopefully now.
The other question is that I noticed that the rescue squad, that their large vehicle appears to be gone now. Have we had any communication with regards to, are they going to be turning the building back over to us? And does the town have any particular use for the building?
I've had no communication on that at this point.
Are there things we need to be considering around that building? I mean,
Probably. We probably should have, I can referee a discussion of it at department head meeting where everybody will want it, but probably to come up with some options to bring forward.
Freestanding document vault.
hey, right next to the fire station.
Hey, Neil, I had a question. There was one charge noted that we weren't going to approve in the consent agenda.
Sure. Actually, that was one I didn't approve. You approve them all, but I've been authorized approve on the off weeks, certain ones, and that was not on the list. So I noted that I did not approve that. So that check is here until you approve it, which I guess you've done now.
And why was it not approved?
Because it's not on the list that you authorized me to approve.
I think that was done before you got on the board, Jeff. So we authorized Neil in between on the, the off weeks to authorize the payment of bills from certain entities, but not all, like the predictable recurring ones. And if there was something else, then it had to wait.
And some of those have discounts if they're paid on time, or like the electric bills and things like that. So there's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 20 things that can be authorized, and that was not one of them.
Neil, have we heard anything about the land swap?
No, and we spent the day with Tim, and I should have pushed him on that. But I will contact him so I can report something to EDC.
Perfect, thank you.
Anyone else for other? Okay, so we can open up our public forum to oh, Jean's hand is up.
I was reminded of this over the election and with everyone coming through, and then chatting with Anna the other day. The senior center, a few months back, you were going down through a list of things. You went through the basketball courts, the skating park, the library's now sort of reopening, and there is not one peep about the senior center. The other senior centers around in other towns they've been doing things out in tents. They've been having exercise classes. I don't understand what the problem is with our senior center. We have this beautiful building that isn't being used. So I just want to put that out there again. Go ahead, Anna.
I'm sorry that I forgot to bring that up.
That's all right.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I know, right? So I would love you to put that back on your radar. I know that, you've got a lot of things on your plate, but when it was on that list before a few months back, I asked about it. Oh yeah, well, we haven't really thought about that. And then nothing ever happened. So I'm putting it out there again. There are a lot of people who use that. And now that it's getting the fall.
It started lunch as a drive-through thing on Wednesday. Was that a one-time thing, Neil, or is that ongoing?
That's weekly.
Okay.
What was that, Jeff?
They're doing the Wednesday lunches as a drive-through. Come and pick up something and take it home deal.
That's kind of not the same, is it? I mean, it seems to me that with some ingenuity, we could have at least set up a tent or something and set the tables, distanced. There could have been a lot more thought put into it. And, it's a little late now that the fall's coming, but, we still have some nice weather ahead, and it would be, I just think it would be great if we could at least start thinking about something for the senior citizens in this town. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Jean.
Is that a discussion that we need to have with Paula?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Thanks, Anna.
My understanding is most senior centers have not opened, but they may be doing programs here and there. So we can certainly have that conversation again. I would say nothing has opened, but that doesn't mean a lot of thought hasn't been put into that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you would like her to begin looking at other things.
Have people been asking for more?
The asking has been maybe groups that are already meeting outside, thinking about places to meet. But we can certainly poll. I know there have been people going through the drive-through.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if Jean's hand is back up or if she didn't put it down.
Let's see.
I was muted again, so I was going to add in that I have friends around in Henniker, for example, their white birch has been open. That what they do is they take the temperatures when they walk in. They've been doing their exercises in a tent outside all summer long. So that, you know, white birch is doing something. So I haven't checked with like Ware and some of the other towns, but I do know about Henniker for sure.
Okay, thanks, Jean.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so that brings us to our non-public, and then we will adjourn. So, does somebody want to move that we go into non-public?
Okay, I'll move, we go into non-public under RSA 91A:3, Roman 2, little c, reputation.
I'll second that. Okay. And then we will be stopping the recording and not doing any other business and adjourning after our non-public. So thanks for anyone listening and everyone who
Bye.
attended. And thank you, Robin.
Have a good one.
Okay, so we'll
Thanks,
just
Robin.
roll, going into non-public. So Sabrina's a yes. Jeff,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Anna.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
This is quick
Oh,
and
We're on,
Neil,
we're still
it still looks
recording.
like we're live.